Hi, my name is Mitch Tanenbaum, and I am the Chief Information Security Officer for CyberSecurity LLC, a full-service cybersecurity company based in Denver, Colorado. Today, we're going to talk about the Defense Department's new cybersecurity initiative called CMMC, or the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification Process. Again, for those who are familiar with it, DoD has had what I would call a voluntary certification program. They would call it mandatory for the last 3 or 4 years, called NIST SP 800-171. I call it voluntary because no one was really checking up on it, and they would call it mandatory because the Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation Supplement (DFARS) has a clause in it that says it's mandatory. But since nobody was checking up on it, people kind of took things loosely. So myself and my friends here in the background are going to talk about what's coming up, and the big question is, how do I know what level I need to be certified at? So I'm going to share a slide deck here, if I'm lucky. There we go. This slide deck came from the Pentagon, and if you'd like a copy of it, just send me a note and ask me for it. You'll see on the bottom here it says Distribution A, which those of you who are familiar with DoD markings means that it is unrestricted distribution. So I'm not going to go through this whole deck, but I'm going to pick some particular slides out of it. So the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification Program has 17 capability domains, which are listed here on the left side of this slide. And on the right side, they have 5 levels. And that's where really the big thing comes into, like, what level am I supposed to be at? So as an example, level 1 just means you have the ability to perform what the requirements are. And from a practice standpoint, you're just practicing basic cyber hygiene. But at level 5, which very few people will need to do, not only do you have these processes, but you optimize the processes, and you have a very advanced practice. So that's kind of the scope of things. So if we look at these different levels, and they break it into the processes and the practices. So this is the processes. In this case, level 1 just means you're performing it, and the selected practices are documented where required. And you can see as you go, level 3, for example, each practice is documented, including the lower levels. And each one of these levels includes all the levels below it. So level 3 includes level 2 and level 1. Level 4 includes level 3, level 2, and level 1. So you can kind of see that's what they're looking for. And then when it comes to the practices, as opposed to the processes, now we're talking about exactly what these practices look like. So that's kind of where we're going. In the CMMC model, level 1 has 17 practices. Level 2 has 55 practices. Level 3 has an additional 58 practices. Level 4 has an additional 26, and level 5 has an additional 15. So you can see by the time you're up to level 5, which again, very few people are going to need, you have 171 practices that you need. Now, in addition to the practices, though, we've also got, oops, looking for the right slide here. Let's use this one instead. In addition to these practices, you also have processes. So when you get to level 2, you add two processes which you didn't have before. There were none in level 1. Level 3, level 4, and level 5, each one of those, you add one more process to the equation. So again, the question becomes, how do I know which level I need to be at? So the first answer to that question is, everybody who does business with the Department of Defense, whether you're mowing the lawns at an Army base or whether you're providing rocket ships, needs to be certified at level 1. And we say certified, that means that you have a third-party company come in that's been approved. That third-party company has been approved by the Department of Defense, and they certify you that you're compliant at level 1. So that's the first thing. The second thing is level 3. So level 3 says that you have access to controlled unclassified information, or CUI. So everybody who has access to any CUI must be certified at least at level 3. Level 3 basically, if I can find the right slide here, let's see if I'm good at this. Level 3 basically includes the 110 items that are in 800.171, plus a few more for good measure, plus some processes, with 3 processes that you didn't have in 800.171. So, if you are an organization that has access to controlled unclassified information, assume that you need to do everything that's in 800.171 today, plus some more stuff. If you're one of the small number of people that need to be at level 4, level 5, then you're going to need even more than that. But everybody who has access to controlled unclassified information will need to be at least at level 3. So then the question becomes, well, what about, do I need to be at the same level if I'm a subcontractor? Do I need to be at the same level as my prime? Or if I have subcontractors, do they need to be at the same level that I'm at? And the answer to that, like all good consulting questions, is it depends. So one of the things that the DoD would like you to do, and this really gives you the motivation to do it, is that you should look at the information you have and figure out what information you're giving to a sub. And that is, if you are the sub, that means your prime needs to do that. And if you are the prime, that means you need to do that for your subs. In particular, if you can go off and get them to do their job without giving them any controlled unclassified information, then they may be able to get away with just a level 1 or level 2 certification, which is both a whole lot less expensive and a whole lot less work for that sub to go do. Now you have some motivation, because prior to this, you didn't have any situation where, if you did that, then you had less work. With 800.171, it was one size fits all. So that's the number one thing. And then the number two thing is, if you are a sub, your prime needs to go off and look at the information they're giving you and try to figure out if they can give you less information or less sensitive information, such that um, you don't necessarily need to be as high level so as they are. They might be, if they're a big prime, they might be level 4 or even level 5. And as a sub, you don't want to do that because it's very expensive. So, if they can go off and carve out the information in such a way that it's both, legal, and also really doesn't give you access to a lot of sensitive information, then you may be able to be certifiable at a lower level. So there's no requirement that as a prime, all of your subs have to be certified at the same level uh, as you are, and as a sub, you don't have to be certified at the same level as your prime. In addition, if you are a bigger organization and you have, for example, one contract that requires you to be at level 4, then one of the things that you can do, perhaps, is partition that project off by itself, put it on its own network, and say, okay, for this particular project, we're going to go off and take these people and these processes and go put them in a level 4 environment and get that small world certified at level 4. But the rest of everybody else maybe could be a level 3 or level 2, or maybe even level 1, depending. So that's an important distinction. You could easily isolate them. Now that means you have to actually isolate it, though, and that adds pain, especially to the IT department who's supporting you, because they can no longer just connect to your network and go off and do things. Because if we're going to go isolate that level 4 network from the rest of the company, it really means it's isolated. That may mean that your IT guys have 2 computers on their desk, and the process says that you're not allowed to, for example, to move flash drives from the high side to the low side, um, which people who are familiar with the classified world, that's a very common issue, and many times they do have 2 computers on their desk. But as you work through this, you get to be creative, because being creative will save you money and save you pain. So hopefully that's helpful. We're really just beginning to peel back the layers of the onion to understand this, but hopefully this is a useful thing. And if you have more questions, please reach out to us. We appreciate it, and we'll do more of these in the future. Thanks for listening.